3 higher ed authors, 100 plus college and university presidents, dozens of actionable insights for academic leaders. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, is now available on Amazon.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and I'm very excited today to be back behind the microphone and hosting this super cool conversation that we're about to have. But first, I just want to say thank you to everyone, the thousands of you that have purchased Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, a book that was written by Kate Colbert with Dr. Joe Solucio, my co-founder, and with modest contributions by myself. So if you want to learn more, please go to edupexperience.com, where you can find out about the book, about all the different shows that we have. We have a bunch of spin-offs, which is great. So check us out at edupexperience.com and sign up for our email list to get informed. So, all right, now we have a super cool guest co-host today. She was on way back. She's our 62nd president that we interviewed. Now we're up to 228. And she was on episode 189 way back in April 7th of 2021. And now she's back to guest co-host. And she's actually, I think, in the book as well, as a matter of fact. She's quoted there. So she is the one, the only Dr. Christina Royale, and she is the former president of Holyoke Community College. Christina, how you doing today?
Excellent, Elvin. Good to be here co-hosting with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming back on. So real quick, before we introduce our guest, so what have you been up to lately? I'm sure you got some news to tell us.
Well, I just finished my tenure as president of ATC for the last 7 years, and I'm excited to embark on a self-imposed sabbatical for the rest of this year and have a chance to renew myself and study up and get some perspectives, take a step away to come back fresh into our field. So I'm excited.
Oh, good for you. Well deserved. Well deserved. I hope you have a lot of good time to just reflect and then kind of figure out what you want to do next. And I think today will be a fun conversation for you as a co-host. So let's bring in our amazing guest today. So she is Dr. Cassandra Lewis, and she is the Chancellor of the College of Information and Cyberspace, CIC, at the National Defense University. Cassandra, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate your time. So let's kick it off right away. So obviously the first thing we want to know is, what do you do and how do you do it?
That's a great question. So as you already indicated, I am the Chancellor of the College of Information and Cyberspace. To make it easy, you can think of us as CIC. We are actually one of 5 colleges that are located under National Defense University. So we actually have a higher level organization that kind of pulls together all of these different institutions. We are a graduate institution under the Department of Defense. So my role as Chancellor of CIC is to fulfill our mission in support of the Department of Defense, in support of men and women who are in uniform, as well as those who may be an interagency and international fellows. So we're a very unique institution in that we blend a range of different stakeholders, DoD, federal, as well as the academic community, a very different type of institution, but one that I am very proud to lead and really excited to share a bit more about in this conversation.
Oh, that's great. So a couple of follow-up questions I have is, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the history? Are you online, on ground? I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, but are you, where are you located? And what type of, what are your hot programs that you provide?
Yeah, so National Defense University is actually located in Washington, D.C. We are called the Chairman's College, or the Chairman's University, and that's being the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We educate national security professionals, joint warfighters, and also as well international fellows. So we're a graduate school. So that's kind of probably the best way of describing NDU. We are a graduate school for those national security professionals who will go on themselves to become heads of defense for perhaps the US as well as our international counterparts. So lots of different communities come to bear at National Defense University, but we're really focused on those strategic national security leaders. So as part of NDU, my college is the College of Information and Cyberspace, and our mission really is to educate joint warfighters and the cyber workforce. I guess it's no secret to anyone perhaps who's even listening how critical it is to protect our nation's cybersecurity, our cyber infrastructure. And my college focuses on how do we best prepare those strategic leaders who can think about national strategy as it relates to cyberspace and information. Also under the NDU umbrella, there is the National War College. They're principally focused on educating leaders who focus on national security strategy. We have another college that's focused on countering terrorism. There's another college that's focused on figuring out how we best support our national security enterprise when it comes to resource management. So that's kind of how we get troops to where they need to be, how do we get resources, partnering with the private sector. So if you would think about any aspect of our national security, there's usually an entity within NDU who will focus on educating those civilians as well as folks who are in uniform to educate them so that they can lead effectively.
Gotcha. And just real quick, before I pass it over to Cassandra, again, what's the student body look like? If you can kind of talk to us, like what size are we talking about? Where are they coming from and things like that?
Yeah, so NDU as a whole, we are about, let me see, I think as a whole, the institution is, in terms of students, just under 2,000 students. My particular college, 2,000 students who are resident in person. So there are lots of different communities. So the primary means that NDU educates students is really through a 10-month Master of Science program. So most of the colleges have that in common. We educate joint professional military leaders. They come to us for 1 year. So these are active duty, high-level professionals who are stepping away from perhaps high ops tempo battlefield environments. They're joint warfighters. For one year, they have that bit of time where they can come to NDU, where they can focus, where they can really take a step away from the operational aspect of warfighting, and then they can really apply themselves in terms of how do they really start thinking about national strategy. So they may focus on different areas, but that 1 year provides them with that opportunity that they can work together with different services. So one of the unique things about NDU is that we have a student body population that blends in all of the military services, and that is by design. Congress created joint professional military education so that when it comes time in war or in peace, our servicemen and women understand how to operate with airmen. They know how to operate with those in the sea service. They know how to operate with all of the different domains are coming to bear at NDU so that we can effectively know how to work together. The unique aspect as well is that in addition to the active duty from all of the various services, what's also unique is that we have interagency leaders from many different branches of government. So we're not only talking about DOD, but you'll have someone from the Department of State, Department of Commerce. You think about all of the other federal agencies, they're going to be represented in NDU student population. And then the final piece that really just brings together such a wealth of the student body population is that we have part of the student body international fellows from more than 100 different nations that are also reflected in our student body. So it's a really dynamic student body in an area that not a lot of folks know about. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of share this kind of different aspect of higher ed.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate you sharing that. Cassandra, over to you.
Cassandra, when you think of the topic of cybersecurity, it has just become more of a general conversation in our nation. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, how your institution has changed over the years as cybersecurity has become an increasing focus for us.
Yeah, So one of the things that's really unique about my institution, we're going about right on the cusp of celebrating 60 years of existence, my particular college. So my college, the College of Information and Cyberspace, was actually founded in 1964 as a Department of Defense Computer Institute, right? So when you think about this little fledgling institute that was founded in 64, because the department recognized that our key leaders, they need an understanding of computers. So really basic, how do we integrate technology in their education to ensure that our active duty and as well as our DoD civilians also understand this broad world of computers. Over the years, my curriculum has expanded and it's changed. So we went from the Department of Defense Computer Institute, then we became the Information Resources Management College, recognizing the critical role that information plays in the national security landscape. So we did that for many years. So we've educated populations of students who are focused on Chief Information Officer. We also, Chief Data Officer is another aspect of our curriculum. We have technologists, strategists. So the interesting move to what's now fully recognizing the dynamic role of cybersecurity is that evolution in the understanding of the department that, hey, we can't have silos in how we approach joint warfighting. So we can't only think about the strategy, we also have to think about what are the technology and how do we enable all of these other aspects of national security through the kind of integrating technology, thinking about emerging trends, emerging forces such as AI, thinking about how do we really start leveraging quantum computing. So really what's exciting to me and my student body and part of my curriculum is that there is an understanding that in order to best support our joint warfighters and have our federal government professionals to be able to really think more globally about national resilience is that you have to embed cybersecurity, you have to embed aspects of my curriculum that deals with emerging technology into the mix. So I think it really underscores how critical cyber is and how cyber touches all aspects of our society, and the federal government and the Department of Defense is right there in the mix.
You know, I can't think of a more fitting institution in terms of needing to be proactive and futuristic when you think of some of the trends that you're dealing with. Just curious, can you give an example of something that you were planning for years ago that is now just sort of entering into the curriculum in a bigger way?
Yeah, so one of the things that I pride myself on, and I give a lot of credit to my faculty, is really keeping an eye on the latest trends that are occurring, so that they don't stay trends, but we really see the implications of them on our curriculum. So for example, we used to just have a couple of lessons in some of my Chief Information Officer courses about the role of data. Or about how AI will impact national security and the effective governing of our various states or perhaps even partner nations. But now when you look at my curriculum, it's actually full-blown graduate certificate. So I have a graduate certificate that's principally focused on data. AI is starting to emerge in ways that now we have dedicated courses that are really honing in on the use of artificial intelligence and how it can impact everything from from joint warfighting to how we manage our resources within the federal and other scapes. But I think more so than my curriculum, what I am really excited about is the types of partnerships that DoD is really starting to embark on with civilian academic institutions, right? So one idea that really started both, I think, from the civilian space, but also one that was also recognized by DoD, is that the Department of Defense really relies on our civilian academic institutions to have close partnerships with the department so that the best and brightest ideas that are being developed all across the academic landscape, this rich ecosystem of so many different types of educational institutions, everything from community college to research ones to teaching institutions. But all of these institutions have faculty members as well as students who are exploring many different aspects of cyber and information that could be useful for the Department of Defense. And I think about the rich partnership that have really started to develop over the last several years. So about 2 to 3 years ago, Congress enabled CIC, and through legislation, through one of the National Defense Authorization Act, it designated my college as the coordinating center for the Department of Defense Academic Consortium for Cybersecurity. And I probably butchered the name of that, but the University Consortium for Cybersecurity. And the purpose of that consortium was to allow academic institutions to partner together and with the department so that we can share knowledge related to cyber and information, particularly for cyber. So to me, that is one aspect of whereas we knew that we needed to work with academic institutions, that's always been part of what CIC does. I think right now we recognize the urgency and the criticality of forming those partnerships now so that we really, there is no daylight between the efforts that are happening at these rich campuses all across the US and some of the initiatives that are happening at in NDU. So I see that in some of the emerging consortia that are occurring, such as the UC2, as I mentioned. Cyber Command is doing a really interesting work around their academic engagement network, recognizing that even Cyber Command wants to continue that partnership with academic institutions so that we can all learn together, and we can all grow together, and we can really help protect our national defense landscape in a way that carries out the notion that we have to be a team in how we think about cybersecurity and how we think about national security defense.
I have one other follow-up question, because this is a really interesting line of conversation, listening to, how you prepare, how you build partnerships to be able to educate people in this space. And I'm wondering, when you think about the idea of avoiding groupthink and avoiding like singular trains of thought. And, as a former college president myself, I know that the big challenge of trying to get the institution to be expansive and creative and think outside of the box. I'm wondering if there are any examples you have of how you've been able to lead your organization through unlearning so that they're in a space of being open to new possibilities, especially when you're talking about national defense.
Yeah, wow, what a brilliant question. And now I have to put my thinking cap on, because I love that notion of unlearning, right? How do we break out of the mold from what we've traditionally done? And let me give you something. This may really seem surprising to you, but I think that it will also give you some insight into how connected my institution is to traditional higher ed, but how different we are. So you would not believe it, but up until just about 3 years ago, NDU, we did not have a role in working with external institutions in terms of grants. So we didn't accept grants, we didn't give grants. We were kind of our own little institution that was certainly connected with the outside world and really saw the benefit of research. We actually have one of our components is focused almost entirely on research, but research was not really baked into the experience for all of our faculty members. Now, I definitely don't want to overstate this to give the impression that our faculty members were not engaged in rigorous scholarly research. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But what I'm saying is that in terms of engaging with scholarly research tied to the grants community and being able to coordinate and collaborate with other entities to either bring grants into the institutions or give grants out, we were not part of that game. And I think where I'm really pleased with this is that we have tried to provide a space so that when we have new members of our community or even current members, when they think of an idea, we give them room to explore it. So we had a faculty member who joined our team maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and she started asking the question about, hey, why aren't we more collaborative with other institutions, with other research centers to bring in grants, right? And rather than, and she might describe it a little bit differently, rather than say it, hey, we don't do this here, we gave her that opportunity and allowed her to go out and make those types of networks and reach out to other institutions. And I'm really, really proud of the work that she's done. I'm going to give her a shout out, Dr. Gwyneth Sutherland. I'm really proud of the work that she's done because based on her initiative and talking about unlearning, or even bringing in new knowledge based on her initiative, NDU now, we do partner with other academic institutions on significant grant products. She's come in, she's also mentored current faculty members. So now it's starting to catch, right? And I think that's the beauty of these great ideas, that you give them room, you give them room to blossom, you feed them by encouraging, and you kind of get out of the way, and then they can really they can really take root and grow. So based on that initiative, we're really starting to see more engagement with some of these externally facing institutions in this simple idea of knowledge creation through grants. There are other examples like that, but I thought that one was a nice way of showing how CIC and NDU is perhaps different from a traditional institution where grants are just part of what's been done, but how that is something novel that's come into our institution that we're really starting to grow with, and you can see some of these partnerships really strengthen in both the types of research that benefits DoD, but as well helps our faculty members to explore and connect with other faculty members to create knowledge in some new domains.
You know that the world of higher education is experiencing evolutions and revolutions. You want to be part of the progress. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education with insights from more than 100 college and university presidents, will show you how. Get your copy of Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education now on Amazon right away. We think you're going to love it. It's
amazing.
I love that example, and I love the way that you highlight the work of your faculty as well, because I know so many ideas as the experts in the field, originate from them as well. And as someone who, started in Unlearning Institute to, help organizations in higher ed be able to stay outside of the rigid boxes that we can sometimes get in. It sounds like you're doing some fabulous work. I want to bring Elvin into this conversation because I also want to ask a follow-up to that in, how do you lead an institution in the space of getting people to think more innovatively? We're talking about the idea of evolving higher education in so many different ways. And I know Elvin and Joe have done some fantastic work in cultivating so many of the wonderful ideas happening within higher ed leaders. As a chancellor, how do you foster innovation at CIC?
So another brilliant question. And really I can go in so many different directions. I think from the basic need for us to ensure, and I hope you're not hearing a lot of background noise that all of a sudden started. Okay. So I think from very basic, making sure that our college environment is one that supports that type of innovation. And I think that we don't do it here. This hasn't been tried. These kinds of old notions of forcing faculty and staff in a box and not allowing them to explore is something that I think kills a lot of that innovation. So I think the very kind of basic thing is to be open to innovation. We say that we want great ideas, but when someone pops into the organization with new and fresh ideas, then we stifle them. And that is contrary to what we should be doing. So one of the things that I have really worked hard on, and I really applaud my faculty and staff for keeping me honest, because they bring these great ideas, is to say, hey, here's something that I think we should be engaged with. Here's something that I think we can do better. And then making room, providing the resources, providing the professional development, giving folks the ability and the space. I think that's a key one, and the space to look outside of the traditional molds, to provide them with the resourcing and the support to enable those innovative things to happen. And I think that I am really big on collaboration. I think that, one, we know there's nothing new under the sun, and our industry can continue, our industry of education can take best practices from other areas, from other industries. So one of the things that we routinely do, in addition to looking at other academic institutions, is to say what's happening in the private sector. When we bring in the wealth of students from other agencies, from other departments within DoD or from other countries, we bring them in, they're part of the community. We can start tapping into their brilliance about the ideas that they can lend us. How can we continue to improve if we don't take advantage of the ideas that's kind of organic to our community, and then giving ourselves the space to partner and link up with other institutions or other organizations so that we can amplify the innovation that's happening, and there could be this dialogue between institutions. So those are just some of the things that quickly come to mind, and that I think that I am committed to in terms of really helping to foster innovation at CIC.
You know, that's wonderful questions, Christina. I shouldn't be doing that. You're overtaking me, but I'm just kidding. No, that's why you're here. That's exactly why you're here. Listen, Cassandra, I want to let's go back to AI.
Okay.
Because, you know, that's like the hottest topic now. Joe and I were just at the Anthology Together conference at Nashville. We interviewed 14 different leaders from all over the world. And obviously AI was just on the top of everybody's mind. And the question is that, you know, when AI came out, you know, ChatGPT, and it made it very public, right? Because AI has been around for years. We all know that. What was the conversation going on at CIC and the NDU? Was this a conversation that you already had before it got popular back in, I think it was what, November of 2022? And then are you talking about how AI is being implemented with the faculty staff side, and also how the students are using it as well? Are you coming up with a policy and guardrails? That was like the big buzzword over there. It's the guardrails. People have to come up with guardrails. So talk to us through, what is the institution thinking about? What are you thinking about, faculty, staff, and students, about AI?
Yeah, so I would say two things, and I'm gonna let me just raise two things in terms of how we've thought about AI, or how we've been immersed in the discussion. Certainly there is an element, and a significant element, where my faculty really concentrated on the implications of AI for national security, right? So there's that domain specific knowledge, because our responsibility is to educate these senior leaders to think about how AI will impact their joint warfighting, as well as their leadership of DoD and other types of organizations. So there's that piece. And then when it comes to the classroom, I think that when it comes to the classroom, I think we were not immune to many of the discussions that were happening across higher ed. Okay, so some voices saying, hey, we need to ban this thing, right? This is not going to be helpful for our students. Thankfully, I think where we've landed is, you know what, rather than going to the draconian, and I would say in some regards, not really imaginative role of banning, how do we leverage it, and how do we help our students to understand how this technology can help them think about approaching these assignments in new and creative ways. So the conversation has now turned to, how do we help our faculty create assignments that is kind of AI proof. So how do we design these assignments so that we really enable student creativity and critical thinking to shine, so that they can't get away with turning in something that is just drafted by ChatGPT, right? So how do we help our faculty in terms of the professional development side? But then how do we as well help our students to envision how AI will help them, not only as students, because remember, I'm talking about my audience is they're adults, right? These are professionals who will go back to their agencies, they will lead policy, they will design policy. They will be the decision makers about how the US federal government employs AI, perhaps to impact how we do business as government. So we've then had to model that for them. How can we think about tasks that AI can make easy and efficient for you, so that then you can engage in what only humans can do, the creative element of the assignment? How can you kick in your critical thinking to bring to bear in how you deployed AI? And I think the other element that we also focused on is understanding how, in a very real way, and I really am, I'm really glad that some of my faculty have leaned into this, but thinking about how biases can be built into these systems, and how do we think about the ethical implications of AI? So I think you will see kind of we run the gamut in terms of areas of concentration for our faculty as they engage with AI and many of these other emerging technologies.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's funny you said ethical component. That's a lot that we heard too. It's about the ethics of AI and using AI. So you guys are going down the same path that I think a lot of institutions are right now trying to figure out, especially with the fall coming up so quickly. But I do want to pivot a little bit, because I understand that you've been at CIC for 15 years. Is that correct?
That's right. It's been a long time.
Yeah, so that's a really long time to be at one institution. So I want to know, what's the secret sauce on both sides? What's the secret sauce for you to continue to be there? And what's the secret sauce for the institution to continue to inspire you to want to be there?
Yeah, so I wake up every morning and I am like, wow, it's been quite a journey. I actually joined CIC when I was a freshly minted PhD. I think I graduated in December and joined CIC like 6 months later. So I started off, and I kid you not, and I think this is kind of a remarkable, when I think of it, it's like, it sounds just like a remarkable story, even when I think about myself. But I started off as a program manager. I started off, I was brought to CIC because we were just starting to think about how to take our certificates and start offering Master of Science degrees. So I came in to help the institution create a Master of Science and transition from just offering graduate certificates. And I have worked over the years in close partnership with the faculty to design a curriculum that really meets the mission, educating joint warfighters, national security leaders, and the cyber workforce. We have been laser focused on being that for the Department of Defense. And what's excited me about this field and what's excited me about NDU is that NDU is an institution where, as I remarked earlier, about that is committed to bringing in innovation and committed to always exceeding the mission. How do we, recognizing that we have such a critical mission and we have such a unique role to play for really our national security, and understanding the kind of the weight of that mission, but also the ways that we can bring about through best practices and innovation, how we can really focus on our mission in some really critical ways. And so that's kept me. The draw of the mission, ensuring that our national security leaders and our joint warfighters have the education that they need to help keep the rest of us safe. So that mission focus has also been really a draw for me. And I think as well, because my field is in cyber and information, and it has covered such a waterfront of different issues. We're talking about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
One hour a meeting can be about AI, another one can be about cognitive warfare, another one can be about how do we leverage data, another one can be about information and information security. So the breadth of the curriculum and the richness of the curriculum has really sustained me. And then the breadth of the student body. I mean, I can really go on, and I think I think you can hear my passion both for my colleagues, the subject matter, as well as the institution has really sustained me. Has sustained me over the years, and that's what's kept me. And I think that as long as we work together to really fulfill that mission and do so in a manner that encourages innovation and not be siloed, but really work to develop those partnerships with other academic institutions and with the private sector, I think that's kind of a golden spot, and I'm one that I'm very privileged to have.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I see from your LinkedIn that you've been chancellor for about 1.5 years, right? So you've been out of the 15 years, but then you were also interim chancellor for about.
I've been interim chancellor for about, I think, going on now 3.5 years. So I was interim for several years, and then I finally got the position for about 1.5 years. But prior to that, I was dean. So it's been a interesting journey to where I am now.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Christina, do you have any last questions before we ask Cassandra the last two?
Yeah, one of the questions that I have is, wanting to understand there's so many different pathways to a presidency or a chancellor role. And I'm curious, what do you feel that were your strengths 20 years ago, well before maybe the chancellor role was even on your radar? What strengths did you exhibit there that you feel have become most pertinent in your ability to lead as a chancellor today?
I think probably the man, that's a good one, Christina. Man.
Another good one, Christina.
You know what? I think it goes without saying that to get to this role, I mean, I'm going to say the given is that I am very driven and I'm very hardworking. But I think that what has sustained me and what has perhaps set me apart has been my commitment to the team. I think that more than anything, when I think about how to fulfill my mission as the chancellor of CIC, I think all the time about how can I provide a resource, a path for my faculty and staff to shine. So I am constantly roving around thinking about ways that can empower the team, thinking about ways that we can be better with our organizational culture, thinking about the ways that we can improve the climate of our institution, our processes. So those are the types, the curiosity and the kind of the unrelenting quest for how do I make my institution better? And how do I make the professional lives of my people, how do I enrich that? And how do I make an institution that produces students who've had a fantastic and rich and rewarding academic experience? So really that commitment to that students, the commitment to making the organization shine, not just in reputation. Because I think if we focus on the climate, we focus on the people, we focus on providing a top-notch education, then the reputation will follow. Then we will really have a calling card, because we know that when we send our students out, they are well prepared to do their job. And so that's kind of been my focus, and I have lots of energy. So that's kind of been I think my secret sauce that have enabled me to really get to this level.
Well, your energy is palpable. I mean, you can absolutely feel it, just in talking with you today. So I can only imagine what your institution feels. I can also think about interviewing a chancellor without asking the question about equity. How are you fostering opportunities to be able to diversify, racially diversify in other ways, having different genders, having different sexual orientation, people with different linguistic abilities, with physical and emotional differences. How are you fostering a defense that really represents who we are as a nation?
Yeah. Another, I think that goes hand in hand with values that are central and core to me. I think that the interesting thing is when I started on my journey, I didn't expect to be chancellor. And there were some instances in my journey where I questioned whether I should even apply, whether I should aspire. And there were key people who spoke to me in those moments that said, Cassandra, you need to do this for you. You're prepared, you're ready, you can do this. But you also need to do this because it's really important to set that example for our students. And so NDU was faced with challenges as any other academic institution or any institution as a whole, right? We seek to provide that environment where it's inclusive and it's supportive, where students can themselves see themselves reflected in the faculty and staff. And that's a commitment that that I hold dear to me. That's part of my core orientation. That's something that we talk about as a team. That's something we strive to ensure that when we're hiring, we're casting a wide net. We're making sure that to the very best of our, and not just hoping for it, but you being strategic and looking to ensure that our faculty and staff can be diverse and inclusive. I think we have conversations even within the DoD space, which folks may be like, wow, but we have conversations about how can we ensure that even our curriculum is reflective of diversity and inclusive. For the military, we tend to think about diversity in terms of what I said before, the joint aspect, right? Making sure that the curriculum is reflective of all of the military services, and it gives the interagency voice and our international fellows voice as well. But there is that other element of racial and ethnic and gender issues that need to also be part of that conversation. And I'm proud that NDU has not shied away from that conversation. That has absolutely been part of the diversity element that we seek to promote and we seek to create within our institutions. I was really grateful with the cooperation of my team. One of the things that we did several years ago was to found the Grace Hopper Award, which celebrates and lifts up individual in the space of cyberspace and information that exemplifies thought leadership in the field, but also the commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we've had, we've given that award out for 3 years now. That's part of a way of us saying at DoD, at CIC, hey, if you're considering, if anyone within the US is considering a career in cyberspace and information, there is room in this field for you. There is room in this field for you. You are valued. You should be part of this team. We need your creativity. We need your what you can bring to these ideas, because it truly will take all of us working together, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation. We all need to work together to really think about these critical challenges facing our nation. And there's room under this broad umbrella for you. So went a bit further than perhaps I hoped to with that answer, but I hope that speaks to my values.
That's great.
Yeah, this has been fantastic, Cassandra. Thank you so much. So we're going to end the episode with the last 2 questions that we ask everyone. So the first question is, what did we miss about CIC and NDU or the DoD that you wanted to mention or we didn't get to talk about, or anything coming up that you got coming up interesting, anything that you wanted to talk about? And the last question is, what do you see as the future of higher education?
Wow. So we went a lot of different areas. And in terms of what I think we touched on a number of things that NDU is really determined to show the value of joint professional military education for the nation and for national security. Hopefully it gave you some insights into some of the areas that we are focused on in this very different type of institution. So I was really happy to get that out. And I think more than anything, we want the American public and we want folks to know that at an institution as NDU, that we are thinking about the future, that we are leaning forward to ensuring that our curriculum does not get stale or stagnant, but we think about what are some of the critical issues that we should be focused on to ensure that joint warfighting, the efficient running of government continues to thrive and stay nimble. So we're not running away from looking at how we can leverage emergent technologies, either in the changing character of war or even how we lead and we govern. So I hope that gives some insight into some of the ways. I also hope that it's clear that we value partnerships, and we talked about what is the future of higher ed.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, higher education, we are stronger and we will remain strong if we leverage the power of collaboration and partnerships. That is across all types of institutions. That type of collaboration, that type of sharing of information is going to be critical for how the field continues to evolve. But then I think we also need to recognize that we won't be able to do it as a field unto ourselves. We will have to collaborate with government, such as an example of CIC. We will have to collaborate with the private sector so that when our students leave our institution, right, that they are armed with networks as well as skills that will allow them to be really successful in as they move out into their respective careers. So thinking about pipeline, thinking about these collaboration, these networks, these partnerships, those are some of the things that I think about as in my role as CIC. And I'm always looking for academic institutions as well to partner with, particularly in our domain. But I think that's something that higher education as a whole will need to stay on the cusp of as we move forward.
Wow, well said. Christina, what do you think about that?
You know, I'm very excited to see what CIC is going to do in the future. And, you know, I think it's awesome because we all follow what's happening in terms of our national defense publicly. But, you know, to see an institution that's really helping to set them up and be a feeder for, you know, their workforce is pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, I agree. This has been a fantastic conversation. I applaud you, Cassandra. I think what you said was beautiful. I appreciate your time. And I want to outro my amazing guest co-host, Dr. Christina Royale, former president at Holyoke Community College over there in Holyoke, Massachusetts, which, by the way, I grew up in Lynn, Massachusetts, if you didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So thanks for being a great co-host, asking fantastic questions. That's why you're here. So I appreciate you being here. And then we want to say your guest today, the one, the only Dr. Cassandra Lewis, and she is the Chancellor of College of Information and Cyberspace, CIC, at the National Defense University, NDU, for the DoD, Department of Defense. Cassandra, how was your EdUp experience today?
It was fantastic. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
It's time to level up. The beginning of a new era in higher education begins with you. Order your copy of Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education by Kate Colbert, Dr. Joseph Lucio, with contributions by Elvin Freitas. It's higher education's must-read book of 2022. Discover how you can seize the moment to change higher education forever. Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, now available on Amazon. For bulk orders, contact Kate, Joe, or Elvin.